How's it going, guys? It's the Pixelate Pumpkin, and in today's video, we'll be looking at all the brand new for 2024 Lemax Spooky Town buildings. And they have quite the unique selection this year. There are a lot of buildings I really like. Now, I don't know if this year is better than last year or even the year before that, just because the last 2 years for Lemax have been so awesome. But this year for sure definitely has its fair share of very awesome and super cool buildings. So we'll be looking at all of those in today's video, along with everything else, of course. I'm really excited to get into it, so without further ado, let's take a look at the Lemax Spooky Town 2024 building lineup. Starting off with my personal favorite, and for sure the big ticket item from Lemax this year, the Phantom Castle roller coaster. That's right, a freaking roller coaster, and I could not be more happy. A roller coaster building is something Lemax fans have been begging for years, and it looks like they finally figured out how to do it this year with, of course, the Phantom Castle, and I think it turned out spectacular. And there is so much to love here. I'm gonna start off with the animation. So of course you have that awesome drop hill where the people are racing down on the coaster cars there. I think they managed to pull off that effect really well there. And of course you just have that simple circular motion that's been featured on so many Lemax pieces, so it's nothing too surprising, but I think it looks good enough and definitely sells the effect they're going for there. Other than that, we also have an animation at the top with the bats going around. I don't really think it's necessary, but it's nice that it's there regardless. Now delving into the actual detail and design of the building here, or I guess the roller coaster ride, I think it looks really good. Of course, you have that enormous Reaper just looming over everything. It looks so awesome and super intimidating. It definitely reminds me of those rides you would see on a boardwalk somewhere with those big concrete statues. So I think that looks really cool. And just the overall design of everything else around the ride, like the theming and stuff with the wooden roller coaster parts, like that's really awesome. And of course, you have the castle part itself, which looks really cool as well. And I like the lighting details on there for sure. Other than that, I don't really have too much else to go into detail here, other than this thing is just awesome and amazing, and you'll definitely be seeing it on the channel this year. I love this thing. Next building, we have the Haunted Hotel Haven. This is certainly another quite large one that features a lot of animation, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really don't think I like this one that much, if at all. I'm not saying it's bad, but there's a lot of issues I have with it. Of course, this is a hotel piece, which we do see quite frequently, and I have to say the other most recent one we saw from, I believe, 2021 was a lot better than this. This really doesn't have much theming to it at all. Just on first glance, it looks like a normal hotel-style building. Of course, you do see that big tentacle and the zombies that are staying there, but other than that, there really isn't much Halloween theming at all here. It looks very normal, and I hate to say it, but a little bit bland. But that's not to say the animation is bland, though. We have this really cool elevator effect where it makes it look like the elevator is going up. I think that just looks so cool. For the rest of the animation, you have that circular motion again, so not too much special there, but it still is cool. And then on the rooftop pool they have there, there's actually a fair bit of animation there too, with the guy in the tube moving around. But other than that, there really isn't much else, and again, I feel like the theming for this one really cannot carry it at all here, because there's basically no theming going on besides the actual people that are staying at the hotel, and that tentacle, of course. But other than that, there really isn't too much going on here to make me think that this is even a Spooky Town piece. It just looks like a normal hotel for the most part. So I am definitely not the biggest fan of this one. Yeah, I really don't like it at all, to be honest, but I do have to give props to the architecture here. It does look pretty nice. Moving on, we have the amazing pumpkin patch, and it's another one of those pieces us Lemax fans can finally say, finally, too, because we finally have a corn maze, and it has been long overdue, and I have to say I am very satisfied with how this one came out. I love the farm and pumpkin theme stuff, as I'm sure all of you have heard a million times by now, and this building here is certainly no exception. Everything they did here turned out super great, and I really like literally everything here. I don't think there's anything wrong with this one. The animation, we'll start off with that because this is the first time we're seeing animation like this, and it is jump scare animation on a freaking Lemax piece. Can you believe that? There are jump scares in the corn maze with actual things just popping out of the maze itself really quickly too. Again, a jump scare animation on a Lemax piece. When I saw this in motion for the first time, I was shocked. But that's definitely a good thing. Other than that bit of animation, we also have one at the top with those, I guess, pumpkin ghost thingies just spinning around up there. That's fine enough, I guess. Definitely adds a little bit to the piece there. Then for the design and detail of the piece, it's a little bit hard to actually see into the corn maze with both the photo and the video, but it definitely looks cool. You have some people walking around in there, and there are tons of pumpkins just littering it. Really nice stuff. Of course, you have that big giant pumpkin, which is kind of gripping onto the building there, leaning over, looking down upon the maze. Really nice stuff there, too. And as for the little barn itself, I think it looks great. A little bit too cartoony for my liking, but I think it still looks pretty cool, and I do love the lighting on there for sure. And of course, right up in the front, you have those corn stalks there with the eyes kind of glowing through. That is so awesome, and I really, really love that little detail there. Really, really cool. So overall, this is just an awesome farm piece, which I really, really like. Definitely a very unique one. Definitely probably one of the most unique farm pieces we've seen in a good while. I don't think it's my favorite farm piece of all time. That would still have to stick with Jack's Pumpkin Farm. But surely another really cool farm piece I like a lot. And will definitely be getting a spotlight on this channel here once I actually get it. This one is awesome. Love this one a lot. Hell yeah, Lemax. Finally, a corn maze. Moving on to the non-animated stuff now, we have the Day of the Dead Emporium. And I really like this building, though it's not my preferred theming. I'm not too big on the Day of the Dead stuff. I do actually like this building a lot here. I think it's really nicely designed and super, super well detailed. My favorite part would definitely have to be those two skeletons on the top, kind of like a billboard almost. Really cool. And there's just so much little art details all along this building that really make it stick out among a lot of the other buildings this year. And it's one I definitely really like. The architecture of the building is also great here. Pretty authentic to how you'd expect it to look. Really like that. And the only thing I don't like is probably the lighting here. It's all one color, and I would have preferred a little bit more variety. Maybe a red light in there somewhere could have been cool, maybe on the billboard. But other than that, it's a fantastically detailed building with, again, some very, very unique theming and even more unique architecture, which I like a lot. If you want something to stick out in your display this year, this would definitely be the piece to get, because there really is nothing else like it from Lemax as of right now. Next up, we have my third favorite of the year being the Broken Bell Telephone Company. And I have to say, this one is ultra unique. I think this is definitely one of the most interesting buildings they've released this year for sure. Maybe it doesn't have the most spectacle to it, but it's definitely a nice, simple one that is super unique, and there really is nothing else like it that they have right now. The things I really like about this one here would have to be the lighting and the color scheme they have going on. All the green brick on this building and all the orangey kind of coloring in it too really makes a very interesting sort of style going on here. And with all the purple lights as well, it just makes one nice color palette for this building that you don't really see in too many Lemax pieces. I also love what's just happening in this giant phone on the top of the building, and the cord zigzags to the bottom where the actual phone part is. I also like the little inside display here where you have the operator and the wire board for it, and the operator's just dead, and it's just a skeleton laying in a chair. I find that to be pretty funny. I like all the ghosts in this one too. It's really cool. I like the ghost themed buildings typically. This one has to be one of the most unique and definitely one of my favorite. I can't really describe why I like this one so much. I just do, and I think it comes together to make one super unique and super cool piece. The next building we have is the Candy Witch Cottage. And obviously, this is supposed to be a spin on the tale of Hansel and Gretel. Obviously, those two find a house made of candy in the woods, owned by a witch that later eats them. And obviously, that is what this is going for here, very obviously. Now, I do like the creativity here, and I do like the classic nursery rhyme kind of aspects to it. But do I like it as a building? Not really. It looks very, very Christmassy, which I mean is kind of hard to get around. Like, let's be honest, you're making an actual gingerbread house for Halloween. It's a little bit hard to make it look Halloween-y. I think they did enough, but it still just looks too Christmassy for me to really enjoy and really get the Halloween vibe from this one. I do think it's quite original though, and definitely a very, very unique piece. Not my favorite though. I do like that tree on the side though, for sure there. That thing has a mean face on it. And the lighting here isn't too bad either. Other than that, I can't say I'm really the biggest fan again of this one. I do very much like the story aspects of this one, but for the Halloween theming, it could be a little bit stronger, maybe changing up the colors on the actual candies, maybe making them black and orange instead of that red. I feel like that may have helped a little bit. Other than that, again, very unique, very cool in terms of the story aspects, but I'm not the biggest fan of this one. Our next building is the Slithering Gardens. And this is obviously a garden/plant nursery theme here, which they've done plenty of times before, but they've always focused on the man-eating plants for those. This time they're focusing on snakes and skeletons. Kind of a weird mishmash here, but I think this actually turns out really, really cool, especially with the lighting and just the design of the building here. It just looks awesome. I'm not the biggest fan of the garden themes, or snakes for that matter either, but despite that, while it might not be my cup of tea personally, I could still respect this one for how unique and just genuinely how awesome the design is here. I love the Victorian style house, especially with that little greenhouse built on the side of it. That is really cool. And then you even have a little pavilion out front in the yard there, which is cool. I'm not sure how I feel about all the roses and the heart that lights up on top of the pavilion there. It's kind of a strange mishmash again, like almost like a Valentine's Day thing going on here. I don't really understand it. But other than that, I think this actually is a really cool, almost standout piece this year. It's definitely a complex piece, but simple at the same time. And I really, really like this one. Super unique. Next up, we have the Pumpkin Hollow Motel. And I know all of you expect me to love this thing, but to be honest with you guys, I really don't. I'm actually not a big fan of this one. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's bad. I do like it a little bit, but it's just not my type of pumpkin theming, I guess you could say. I'm not a big fan when they actually take pumpkins and make it the architecture of the buildings. I would have preferred to see a realistic kind of looking hotel building here with like a pumpkin theming on top of that, not like have the actual building be pumpkins and stuff. It just seems a little bit too fairy tale like for me, when I'd rather be seeing a more realistic approach to the designs of the buildings here. I don't know, I still like the big pumpkin on top for sure, and the sign is pretty cool as well. I can't really say I enjoy this one all that much. However, I would love to see another motel down the road sometime with more of a realistic and creepy design. Not this whole living in a giant pumpkin thing. Definitely not a favorite of mine though. Next up, I think we have a really great one, being the Backend style mortuary. This one is really cool, mainly because of how the building is designed here. Or I should say buildings, because it's almost like you have 3 different styles of buildings being all put into one here. On the far left, you have this very old-timey kind of run-down looking Victorian style building. Then in the center, you have this sort of more modern looking home, definitely, you know, not 100% modern. And then all the way to the right, you have this almost diner kind of looking thing, like definitely like a 50s aesthetic going on there. And I think that's really, really awesome. And of course, it's funny that dead people or zombies are going to mortuary to get makeovers. That's just really funny to me. And I love all this different stuff going on in this one. You got like fittings, haircuts. Really, really cool, especially the lighting here. I'm a huge fan of the lighting. There's a ton of silly signs all over it. Just a really, really nicely designed piece in my opinion. A really cool, styled, shaped building here. Overall, a really great one in my opinion. And I like the 2 little inside scenes they got going on. I'm a huge fan of this one. Again, I think it's funny, and also, I just like the design of it a lot. Here we probably have one of my favorite single bulblet buildings of all time, honestly, being the Terror Tavern. This one is really cool, and again, like I said, it's only a single bulblet, which definitely drags it down in my opinion, because I feel like this is a piece that definitely deserves more lighting to it. I really love the design on this one. It looks super realistic in terms of actual taverns I've seen before, just around the area I live in and beyond that. This definitely looks really accurate to what you would see out in the world. And I just love how it's designed and the color scheme going on here too especially. Red and green is typically associated with Christmas, but somehow they make this thing look really far away from anything Christmas related here, and it ends up looking really cool. I also love the little inside scenes going on. I believe you have Frankenstein and Dracula in there, enjoying a meal. Really cool stuff. I've always loved the restaurant buildings, and this one's no exception. And this one would have probably been within my top 3 favorites from Lemax this year. Unfortunately, it's only bulb lit though, which is a big disappointment to me because, like I said again, I really think this one deserves better lighting and also could benefit from it a lot. I feel like just some spotlights scattered throughout it on the signs and stuff like that would have been so cool for this one and definitely deserving of it just because of how well designed I think this one is. But still, regardless, it's a cool piece and definitely goes with any other restaurant you have in your village. Next up, we have Medusa's Main Magic. Again, another single bulb lit building. I think this one's alright. Not as good as the last one, but it's okay. Definitely not my exact cup of tea, but it works nicely, and I do like how Medusa has her own hair salon. It just makes sense. I do like the snake theming here. I think it's nice, obviously matches with her hair, and I do definitely like that sign up front. What I don't like is how there's a giant bottle of hairspray sticking out the top of the building. Why? I don't really get that, and it doesn't make much sense. Other than that, this is a fine one. Not too much else to say about it. We have another unique one up next, being the Haunted Attraction Monster Matchmaking Agency. I think this one is pretty cool. Again, definitely really unique. Not my personal cup of tea once again, but it's definitely cool if this is what you're going for, or you're just building a town of buildings. I feel like this one matches quite nicely. I do like the whole idea going on here with where you have a monster dating service basically. That's really cool and again, extremely unique. Not my personal thing, and it definitely doesn't really fit with the whole Halloween thing. This building doesn't look very themed to Halloween even. I would say more of like a scary Valentine's Day type thing. But other than that, I think it's quite alright. Again, a single bulb lit building. This feels like another one of those that kind of deserves a little bit more lighting, especially on all the signs they have in the front of the building. Other than that, it's quite alright in my opinion. Definitely really unique. Here we have the Pumpkin Patch Party building. And this basically just goes back to what I said about the Hollow Patch Motel. I am not a big fan when they use pumpkins as buildings. It just really never works for me in my opinion, and especially this one here. And arguably the worst part about this really isn't the fact that the building is a pumpkin, it's what's on top of it. That roof looks really ugly. I don't like the straw texture it kind of has on it, almost like a roof to one of those little huts that you would see, like the Spirit Halloween 2020 theme I wouldn't want to say, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of that roof there, especially the teal color on the siding as well. That's not really fitting. I'm not a big fan of this building at all. It's definitely one that's going to fly under the radar for a lot of people and probably not be very popular, and arguably my least favorite of this year, even though it is a pumpkin patch piece. That's what it says at least. It doesn't really feel like one. Yeah, not a big fan of this one. And for our last buildings, we have a little set of 4 here. They don't come together, but, you know, they all follow the same sort of thing. I mean, these little trick-or-treat houses, I think these are okay. You got a witch, a banshee, a skeleton, and then Frankenstein. My favorite one is easily the Frankenstein house. I really like the design of it. But these are just simple little houses to really fill out if you're doing a big neighborhood or a little town or whatever. These definitely help fill it out while not breaking the bank on a bigger piece. So I definitely like these a lot. Better than the shacks they had last year. You know, these are kind of the same thing a little bit, but, you know, they're changing up a little bit, and I think these are definitely better. Overall, they're just simple things to fill out your little Lemax display, so nothing too much to say about them here. This doesn't really count as a building, that's why I said the last things we looked at were our last buildings, but we have this cemetery graveyard kit. Now, I'm not 100% sure if you're going to be able to move all these tombstones around and do what you want with them, or they just come stuck down to this little grass patch here. But either way, this is a really cool little cemetery piece. Again, this is definitely different from what they've been doing in these previous years. They're really switching it up here with this sort of like kit they're giving you, which I like a lot, and it definitely helps when you just want to have a graveyard at once instead of having to go out and get the little tombstone pieces. You have everything you need right here, which I definitely like a lot, including that really cool mausoleum, and then you got that really big gravestone there with the 2 angels on the side of it. Really cool, and it even comes with a tree. So overall, this thing is really cool, and I'm really hoping you're able to actually move the pieces around, because I know that would be helpful for a lot of people. Now jumping into some of the accessories, we have a really cool one here being Ferry on the River Styx. This one is super detailed and really cool looking. You have those 2 people on the boat there with that pot of gold, and then obviously you have that reaper in the back rowing the boat. My favorite detail is probably all the hands reaching up out of the water as that dude hangs over to the edge. It's really cool looking. I'm not sure what this is depicting exactly, other than like the Ferry of the Dead type thing, but it's still very interesting looking and nicely detailed for sure. And here we have my favorite little accessory this year, being the spooky scarecrows. Obviously in the corn stalks there you have that same glowing eye effect that's on the Amazing Pumpkin Patch. That's a really cool effect, and it's nice they brought it into a little accessory piece like this. And just the little pumpkin head scarecrows on this one are really cool as well. I especially like the one popping out of the corn stalks on the side there. That's cool. And the one with the scythe is alright. I like the one at the top too. Other than that, this is a great little piece that can go with any farm you have for Lemax. It is really cool, and I really love how they have the little glowing eyes there. Awesome. Here's a little silly one, I guess you could say. You have these giant man-eating plants facing off against these 3 trick-or-treaters here. I really like how detailed the costumes are here on the trick-or-treaters. Really nice detailing and work there. The man-eating plant is pretty cool too. And our last thing we'll be looking at today is the Monster Marshmallow Roast. And this one is just a fantastic little classic Halloween, cute little campfire they got going on here. I really like the costumes on the trick-or-treaters. All of them obviously having their little marshmallows. And you have that awesome flame coming out of the pumpkin there. This one is just really cute and really cool. And it's just the type of classic Halloween you can't go wrong with. Well, everybody, that's going to do it for my discussion of Lemax Spooky Town 2024. I have to say, this is a really good year for them overall. There's a few that I didn't like here and there, but they weren't bad by any means. They're just not my cup of tea. For the most part, everything was super cool and really creative this year. I like how much they're branching out with this stuff now, and I am a big fan of it for sure. Overall, again, this is a really good year for them, and I cannot wait to get that roller coaster for sure. That is easily one of the coolest items they've had in a long time. And again, it's nice to finally see that roller coaster we've all been wanting for a while now. Anyways, everybody, be sure to like and subscribe as always. That will be it from me on this one. And remember, nobody outpixelates the pumpkin.